Hope you're ready to talk about last weekend's games. What an amazing weekend of football. Welcome, everybody on YouTube. Thanks so much for being here, watching during the off season. That is great stuff. Please tell your friends. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the like button. Let's go. Welcome to Fantasy Football Today on this Monday. And it feels like the Super Bowl was just played. That was incredible. All right? I mean, it's kind of a letdown.
I tried to tell you.
Good luck, Roger.
Super Bowl 55.5.
55.5. Yeah, it was amazing. Here's your stat of the century. Just read this on NFL.com. The 4 divisional round games were decided by a combined total of 15 points. That's an average margin of victory of 3.8 points per game. That is the lowest average margin of victory in NFL playoff history in a round with at least 4 games. Aren't that many rounds with at least 4 games, but still, it was that good. 4 walk-offs. All right, Jamie, what was the second best game of the weekend?
I think both of them were yesterday. With the Bucs and the Rams. Just the fact that the Bucs made it a game after really looking awful through the majority of 3 quarters. And so, they got clearly lucky with some of the turnovers from the Rams. Missed field goal by Matt Gay. But you thought Brady. Can you imagine if he had come back from first 28-3 against the Falcons in the Super Bowl and then 27-3 against the Rams there? Quarterbacks named Matt or Matthew would have definitely been scared about ever playing him again. But yeah, it was probably yesterday. But all the games were great.
Yeah, the Bucs game was so pathetic. Right? Like, it wasn't even a great comeback. It was just the
drama.
It was just the Rams wee-weeing down their leg. It was really bad. Dave, you think the 2 fumbles by Cam Akers matter? Do you think Sony Michel gets that job back next week?
I bet there's a more defined split between those two. Like they mix and match them. They're going to have a hard time trusting Akers. I know they went right back to him after that first fumble that he had. But the second one, I know he got more playing time after it, but I wonder if they just have to think twice about, is it even worth it? Is it worth putting him on the field? He's looked good in spurts, but I don't know if he's necessarily back to where he was pre-injury. And maybe they should just put Sony Michel back in that spot. Henderson might be back as well. So I bet we see more of a committee next week.
His rush average is not going to look very good in the playoffs, most likely, because he's just going to face really good run defenses, right? Face the Bucs this week, and he's going to face the 49ers next week.
The only thing I cared about was the playing time. The fumbles, yes, problem, and we'll see what they do. But that was pretty telling. The fact that he, 1 game in, and it was okay. You're the guy again. Go. You knew it was going to be a struggle for him, but the fact that he played as much as he did, and like they've said, that they went back to him after the fumbles. We'll see what happens next week. But Michel was terrible in Week 18 against the 49ers, so I can't imagine that he's going to have a more significant role, much more significant role. He'll have a bigger role potentially, but I still think this is Akers' job, hopefully forever.
In 6 point per passing touchdown leagues, Joe Burrow and Ryan Tannehill combined for 20 points. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes combined for 90 points. So,
dude, how about Saturday? There was 2 wins with 1 passing touchdown combined between those 2 teams.
And it was Tannehill?
It was Tannehill, yeah.
Tannehill.
Wow.
Rodgers, none.
Yeah.
Garoppolo, none. Burrow, none.
Crazy. All right, so let's do a fantasy winner and a fantasy loser. Dave, which one?
Winner's the most obvious thing ever.
Yeah.
Well, who?
Gabriel Davis.
Okay. Exactly.
Well, I think Cam Akers has even despite the fumble.
We had him last week though.
Yeah, we did have him last week. All right, Dave, Jamie, I'll give you Gabriel Davis. Dave, you think of a loser while Jamie talks about Gabriel Davis.
Look, this is a great stat I saw this morning. He scored more touchdowns in the. Am I getting this right? No, it can't be. He's
great
got more.
Stat, Jamie.
It's more touchdowns in the last 5 games or so than CeeDee Lamb had all season. Whatever his 7 touchdown stretches. I probably butchered that, but in any event, he's just fantastic. I mean, the 4 touchdowns that he had set a record. The 2 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes set a record. He's going to be everybody's favorite breakout candidate next season. I just went back. I knew I had drafted him in one of the 2 drafts that we did, And
you got him in one, and I got him in one.
Yeah, you got him in the PPR one. I had him in half PPR one.
Right.
So
and I was mad. I knew that you did because I was trying to get him in the other one too.
My receiving core in that league is Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley, Darnell Mooney, and Gabriel Davis. If you tell me I get those 4 guys, sign me up all day long.
Keenan Allen, who?
Huh?
Keenan Allen, who? Darnell Mooney,
Keenan
Gabriel
Allen,
Davis.
Calvin Ridley, Darnell Mooney, and Gabriel Davis. Obviously, Ridley's a wild card, but we're all hoping he's going to be back and in a good situation. And that's with Dalvin Cook and Javonte Williams. So and Devin Singletary. So you get the opportunity to see what he can be. In a full-time role. Get Emmanuel Sanders off the team, so he doesn't have to have any concern about him being in the way. He's got so much upside, Gabriel Davis.
He does, but we shouldn't just ignore.
Well, maybe it's 7 touchdowns in the playoffs is more than what CeeDee Lamb's had this season. The last 2 playoffs combined.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, that makes sense. 4 yesterday with over 200 yards, 8 catches, 201 yards, and 4 touchdowns on 10 targets. Wasn't that long ago? Week 18, he had 3 catches for 39 yards on 14 targets. So he had, almost he had more than a third of his entire season output yesterday. He had 549 yards in the regular season and 201 yesterday. So what's the danger here, David, maybe overreacting to Gabriel Davis's big game?
The overreaction is to draft him too early and to put him in round 4 or something like that, where you expect him to just have a chance to take over as the number 1 wide receiver in Buffalo. You can't do that.
No, well, even if I know people are going to draft Diggs, obviously, but if you expect,
and I think he's the loser. Like I think that he's the one that you go back to and you say, well, where was he? He came up small in the game against Kansas City. He came up small in the game before. I know he had the 2-point catch or whatever. It's not enough. But he was outshined in the first Bills win in the playoffs by Dawson Knox and Davis. And then Davis just goes ham in the second game. And if this is the direction that the Bills offense is going to move into, it makes sense for Buffalo to spread it around and have more weapons and be more diversified. But it just kind of feels like maybe we're going to be overrating Stefon Diggs, and people taking him with a top 30 pick might be not doing themselves a favor. I don't know if he's going to remain dominant as the heavy target guy like he was 2 seasons ago, like he was 1 season ago.
If that's the case, you're getting a steal for Stefon Diggs. He's not getting out of the second round. I mean, he's still got so much upside. You can't overlook the body of work that he had all season. And the hope would be is that, I mean, obviously, what the Patriots did, with J.C. Jackson and trying to take him away last week. And this week, Chiefs maybe had a similar game plan. I don't know. I haven't gone back and looked at it yet. But I'm going to guess that, most teams' plans, which it should be, and then Gabriel Davis's emergence will hopefully help that, is to take away your best option, which is take away Stefon Diggs. So if you start to open up the other side of the field, you can't take away Stefon Diggs, then that helps Diggs moving forward.
He was 7th in targets per game among receivers this past season. Is he going to be top 7 again next season?
I'm going to guess he's still going to be top 10. So, you factor in A.J. Brown missing time. You factor in, quarterback changes around the league. So he may slip a little bit, but there's still too much upside with him in this offense. And in terms of Gabriel Davis, Adam, your question, is he going to get overdrafted? Probably so, because, we'll overhype him as an industry. There'll people that, 1 or 2, they'll probably call him a bust. They'll, say that don't buy into just the playoff performance and look at more of what the body of work is. And I'm sure they're not done tweaking their offense yet, but it's hard to overlook what he can be. And I'll go back to something you said about Dawson Knox at the beginning of the season. Attach yourself to good quarterbacks. And it's not a bad idea to attach yourself to a good player like this.
One more thing. What does Buffalo do at running back this offseason?
Hopefully not much. I mean, Devin Singletary seemed to prove himself.
I agree. I hope they don't do anything. But if they go splash city at running back, I wonder if that changes the tenor of the offense, which, I mean, I wouldn't want them to do that, of course. I want them to throw 45 times a game just like everybody else. But if they try and improve that run game this offseason and it works, that's going to hurt everybody in the passing game.
Yeah, Jamie, you combined Gabriel Davis and Darnell Mooney. This was a full or a half PPR league?
Half.
Yeah. That in a full PPR league, that's a risky combo, depending on where you get them. And like you get Gabriel Davis in the 9th round or whatever. But
that's
about 2 guys who have a Gabriel Davis 56% career catch rate. It's been basically the same both seasons. Darnell Mooney 60% catch rate. Because they go deep, right? They're high ADOT guys, especially Davis. And in a PPR league, I guess my concern is Marvin Jones.
But we're not talking about number 1 or number 2 receivers here. I don't think Davis may creep into that conversation depending on how you build your team. And Mooney might as well.
But you're going to rank Davis in your top 24, no?
Yeah, but again, it's about your build. So you could still go 1 running back and 3 receivers in your first 4 rounds and get one of those guys. You're not going to get both at this point because Mooney's hype will get out of control and Davis's hype is certainly going to get out of control.
Yeah. All right.
I won't be able to draft that receiving core again if Ridley's right.
Well, but I think you should be able to because I don't know that.
Not without going receiver.
But I don't know that. Okay. I mean, your first 2 of Keenan Allen and Calvin Ridley would have to be. No, I don't know. I mean, the way our last 2 drafts have been.
If I were to go, I took Dalvin Cook in the first round.
Yeah.
Forget Keenan Allen. So it's an upgrade over Keenan Allen. I would have to go 4 receivers in a row and just go 0 RB. It's just not happening.
I just don't think that Gabriel Davis. What round do you think Gabriel Davis should be drafted in?
He's going to go in that 45 to 55 range, 45 to 60 range. So mid round 4 to end of round 5.
I don't think he'll go that high.
He has to have a legit breakout. He has to be the number 2 wide receiver consistently for the Bills. And I don't know. That feels high to me right now.
I'm telling you, the way this works.
No, I'm not disagreeing that it should happen. It feels too early for me. What about you?
In the round 4 range, it feels early. I think round 5, based on how receivers start to fly off the board in that 3 through 5 range, he is absolutely getting drafted in the middle of round 5.
But should he? I'm not saying he will. I'm saying
it depends. I mean, I can only tell you where I'm going to rank him. So I know where I'm going to rank him is somewhere between 20 and 30. And so he's going to be drafted in that range. That's where those guys go.
And Dave, what do you think?
I think he's going to be ranked somewhere between 20 and 30 as well. I might have a hard time putting him in top 24. Yeah, maybe right around 55. Like Jamie said, 45 to 55. 45 just freaks me out. There's no way. Maybe around 55th overall, people are going to start gravitating toward taking him. I think if you get him in round 6 at this point, it's fine.
And if you looked at the 70s of ADP last year, I'll try to get it. Let's go full PPR. This is where I'm thinking guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and Chase Claypool and Jamar Chase were going off the board. And that's kind of where I thought he might end up. When you're talking about top 60, you're talking about Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, that group. And I didn't think he'd make it there. It
could be splitting hairs. It could be 65. But it's very hard to imagine Josh Allen's number 2 receiver after the playoff performance he just had getting out of round 6.
Okay, so sorry, Dave. Round
now it could be just to kind of put in context, it could be we're chasing Mecole Hardman again.
Yeah, right.
I don't think that's the case, but that's same type of feel. Oh, the number 2 guy opposite these 2 other great pass catchers. In this case, it's really only one, but loaded offense, great quarterback, and the guy doesn't deliver. I don't think Gabriel Davis is that guy, though. I think he's going to be more involved and better.
Are you taking him over St. Brown?
Equanimous, yes.
Okay. What about Amari Cooper?
No, actually, you need to answer I want to know the answer for both.
I would take Amari St. Brown over.
Amari St. Brown, because that is really interesting. Okay.
As of now, because we don't know what the Lions are going to end up doing.
Amari Cooper versus, how could you take Gabriel Davis over Amari Cooper?
I wouldn't.
Right. I wouldn't either. Right. And then what about like Mooney? Like, are we getting closer with Darnell Mooney?
That's the type of player you're looking at, I think. It's does Justin Fields take the next step? Who's the other receiver in Chicago? Who's the coach in Chicago? I mean, there are a lot of questions still to be answered there, but they're very similar range. I don't think there's a lot of difference between the two of them.
I think I can name 25 other receivers I would put ahead of Gabriel Davis even after yesterday. And I love the guy. All he does is score touchdowns. I don't know if he can do it for, 9 of 17 games next year. Maybe he can. And if he can, then yes, he's worth a pick in the top 50.
Oh, the touchdowns are crazy. He has 16 games in his career, regular season games, with 4 or more targets. And he has scored a touchdown in 10, at least one in 10 of those 16 games. He has a magnet for the end zone. All right. So we're 15 minutes in. We haven't even talked about the game, but let's just talk about the game. But also let me promote something here. If you're listening on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. You can do that obviously on Apple Podcasts. I got to read some of those Apple Podcast questions that are coming in. But Spotify, you can do that there. So anywhere that you can leave a review, please do. And Spotify is one place that you can do it. We have 3 shows this week. We have running back and wide receiver reflections coming up on Tuesday and Thursday, respectively, plus a recap of the half PPR mock draft also on Tuesday. Anyway, that game, obviously you probably shouldn't have kicked off at the end there, right? Probably should have squibbed it, considering
it's just a matter of,
back there.
I get it. I get why they kicked off.
You're trying to. Tyreek was back there, right?
No.
Yeah, somebody said that to me. I didn't think he was either, but you're trying to, if you squib it and they pick it up short, it's the same thing. They're just down on the ball right there. The idea is to kick it to the 5. You want to kick it to the 5.
Yeah. And then I don't know. It didn't seem like you see, at the end of a game where teams line up their defensive backs really close to the sideline, so you can't get out of bounds on them. And it seemed like they were kind of half doing that. And Kelsey kind of even made reference to that when he had his big catch to set up the field goal. And it's like they have 3 timeouts. You don't have to guard the sideline. You got to cover the field. You don't have to worry about them getting out of bounds.
Leslie Frazier and Todd Bowles at the end of the games yesterday really kind of, you have to question what they were doing.
Oh, the zero blitz.
Yep.
Bruce Arians said, never question it. But did you see that some of the Bucs? Let me see if I can find this quote from Levante David. I think it was. It was like, I don't think everybody knew what the play call was on the Bucs. They said like some people knew, some people didn't. I'm pretty sure Levante David said that. I'll try to find it. And Bruce Arians even said, you don't question the play call. You just make sure all 11 guys are on the same page. So I think there was a little bit of confusion there. Dave, what stood out to you in that Bills-Chiefs game?
What stood out to me in the Bills-Chiefs game? You mean like from the end of it all?
Anything.
I thought the last 2 plays, the defense that the Bills set up for those 13 seconds were terrible. These basic prevent defense type plays. And I thought it was clever that the Chiefs instinctively knew on the first play to just hit the middle of the field and get as many yards as you can. And then Kelsey not getting pressed off the line and just being wide open and able to gain yards after catch. I thought that was crazy. And you knew as soon as Kelsey caught that second pass that the game was over, or at least it would come down to the coin toss, I guess I should say. But like whoever was winning that coin toss was going to win the game. And now like everybody's going crazy about the overtime rule and what it should be. I just feel like in the moment, people just wanted to watch more of Mahomes versus Allen, doing their best Madden impersonation and just chucking downfield against each other. But I think the Bills deserve to lose the game based on how the thing went down at the end.
Jamie, what if we did, instead of a coin toss at overtime, because I know people are salty about overtoss, what if they did rock, paper, scissors?
I like it.
Right, because then it takes a little bit, then at least you feel a little bit more in control.
Yeah, people were critiquing Josh Allen for calling tails. Look, it's so stupid. And the Chiefs, this rule cost them an opportunity in 2019 when
that's right, against the Patriots,
drove down the field and they didn't get a chance to get Mahomes on the field. I think instead of changing the overtime rule, I have a different proposal. One of these teams should move to the NFC, so this is a Super Bowl moving forward, as opposed to just in a divisional matchup or a championship game. So I would like to move one of them to the NFC. They trade them with the Giants. Like the AFC could beat up on the Giants.
Yeah, we'll take all the Bills guys, right? We'll just,
the Giants are actually part of the.
I wouldn't like that. This could be, like Packer. This could be what it would be like Aikman, Steve Young, or every year.
Brady Manning.
Sure,
Brady Manning.
Right.
Good one. Yeah, I forgot about those guys. Yeah.
Right.
But the fact is,
I got a feeling we might be saying something similar next week about I'll take Mahomes Burrow every year for.
Or don't forget Justin Herbert. Trevor Lawrence, if he materializes into what he could become. The AFC is just loaded with if these quarterbacks become what they're capable of being, and obviously you saw the 2 last night, and we think Burrow is establishing himself, and obviously Herbert as well. It's going to be fun for many, many years, as Roethlisberger retires and Brady's mulling it over, and who knows what Rodgers does. The league is in great hands with their quarterbacks.
Okay, I'm really close to finding this quote here, but in the meantime, I got to find this. Okay, here you go. Levante David, hurry up. Guys scrambling all over the place trying to get lined up. Just an unfortunate situation. Some people got the call. Some people didn't. It is what it is. They had a great play call lined up. They made a play. It just sucks for us to lose in that manner from battling back the way we did. And then, Bruce Arians said, never second guess. Just make sure all 11 are on the same page.
Right.
So that didn't happen.
That must be what happened.
That's from The Athletic.
Not everybody got it.
Also, the Grim Reaper quote is awesome. When things are grim, be the Grim Reaper. That's what.
So awesome.
I mean, what a.
You know what that is? That's Al Pacino to Jamie Foxx. When things get grim, be the Grim Reaper.
In Any Given Sunday, yeah. So actually, that brings us to our next topic here. I have a movie review I'd like to give. I saw a movie for the first time.
Taken 4.
Which one?
Taken 4.
Taken now. Dave, you still haven't watched Taken?
No.
Not yet. Okay.
I was a little busy this weekend.
I was a little busy too, but Friday night I got
Ozark.
Yeah, maybe it was Thursday. I think it was actually Thursday night. Yeah, very fortunate. My wife was getting our daughter, 1.5-year-old, to sleep, and my wife fell asleep in the process. And I was like, yes, I can watch anything I want today.
Oh, hey, this is a PG show, Adam.
Why? All right. So
Flavor Hub.
After watching that, Davey, I decided it was time to finally see. Come on, this is you're gonna like this.
Okay.
The Notebook. How'd
The
you like it?
Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
It's good. I mean, it's really good. I don't think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen, but I felt the same. I think I actually liked A New Hope better. When I know nobody has that opinion, but it wouldn't be my opinion if it weren't completely different. But it was really good.
When I watch anything,
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you. Yep. Anyway, that's there you go. It was good, and I think the best thing I would say about it is that when it was done, I was like dying to watch Return of the Jedi.
It's too bad you didn't watch Return of the Jedi with Princess Leia's bikini.
Is that Return of the Jedi? I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully my wife falls asleep and I can watch that in the dark. Okay. We got some news and notes for you. Also, I want to know. You make me sick, man. I want to know when Dave has a moment to himself, what kind of beer he's cracking open. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's do some news and notes. Tom Brady could retire. Aaron Rodgers doesn't know what his future holds. Sean Payton is reportedly considering leaving the Saints. Dave, the NFL landscape could be so different next season.
It definitely could. I would be surprised if Brady retires. I would be surprised if Sean Payton leaves New Orleans, although I think this is his way of trying to get more money out of the Saints. So they'll probably get that. Rodgers is the one where I think that landscape changes. They are in so much trouble in terms of cap space. I think the Saints they're the most over the cap going into next year. Packers are right behind them. And their way out of it is to trade Aaron Rodgers and not tag Devonta Adams, and they'll get there. I know that they should do everything in their power to keep those two guys, and maybe they can, and you can always work around cap space, but that's going to be tough for them. This could be a very, very massive changing of the guard in Green Bay.
Rodgers is not staying if Adams is gone. There's no chance. I can't see it with what they have to potentially replace. I mean, you could probably move on from both Smiths on the defensive side, Preston and Za'Darius, just based on what their injuries plus production was this past season. Amos is probably somebody that they can move on from. Bakhtiari, they obviously got through the season without him. So there's some probably big name players they can move on from. You wonder if there's maybe an Aaron Jones move, just because of the position. But if there's no Adams, there's no Rodgers in Green Bay. I can't see that happening. I don't think he'd want to stay if he doesn't have him there. Why would he? Well, what actually would make a ton of sense for Rodgers if he could find his way, if he does leave. I know Denver, from our standpoint, would be a lot of fun for fantasy, but he's talked about how much playing with a above average defense means to him. He clearly had one this season. New Orleans will make a ton of sense. If they could find a way to make that happen. Obviously, like you said, Dave, they're both in sort of salary cap hell, but playing for Sean Payton in that type of scenario, I think he would probably relish that, because I think part of this is, if you look at Rodgers, I don't know how much the weather plays into this. But like, who wants to play in that? I mean, just how difficult that is. I know that they're the home team. They should have the advantage, but it's just, why would you put yourself through that if you didn't have to?
Well, he seems to like it. He says that it kind of wilts the weaker teams.
I'm sure he's a Packer. He loves it. Whatever the off-season differences have been with management and front office, that's obviously a problem for him. But he's embodied that team. I mean, it's really a shame that, for 33 years, I think it's been, that Favre and Rodgers have 2 Super Bowls. I mean, that's just maddening how good those 2 guys are. I mean, 2 of the top 10 best quarterbacks of all time, and only 2 Super Bowl rings combined between the 2 of them with the same franchise.
Yeah.
Right. But look around the rest of the league. I mean, there's a team an hour and a half south of there, or not an hour and a half. That's Milwaukee, 5 hours south of Green Bay, that would love to have a championship over the last 30 years. They don't have one. Buffalo would love to have a championship. You know what they've been through. So
sure, but they haven't had those 2 guys. You say you have those 2 guys. It's not.
Of course. No. I completely get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Just so it's out there, Smith & Smith would save them a lot of salary cap space too. So there's a way for them to keep Rodgers and Adams, but then their defense could be pretty ugly next year. Bakhtiari's staying. His cap number's too high to let go.
They have not drafted. I'm pretty sure. I don't know this for 100%, but I'm pretty sure this is right. They have not drafted a running back, wide receiver, or tight end in the first round since Javon Walker in 2002. So, and it's just, he needs it. I mean, they're slow and boring, and it works, but
he makes it work.
He makes it work, yeah. But at the same time, like, you need another guy to give you an explosive play every now and then, and I think it's catching up to them. It kind of reminds me of the Patriots at the end there, where it's like they just didn't really have enough on offense. They could get by with Brady and Gronk or whatever, for the regular season. But when for the Packers, their number 2 receiver is always Aaron Jones. And
right. I think the hope would have been, I just know Pete Prisco talks about this all the time. The guy get Valdez-Scantling more involved. The guy to get more involved because he's their speed guy. So they needed to have something. It doesn't necessarily have to be him, but how to find somebody in that role because they've been lucky. I mean, what Davante Adams was based on where he was drafted and becoming the best receiver in the game. That's a blessing to them. And what Alan Lazard was, finding him off the scrap heap, solid player. Robert Tonyan last year, solid player. These guys, like you said, Adam, they weren't. It's like we're investing in this. He's going to become something. They've had to cultivate it, and that's credit to Aaron Rodgers and the coaching staff there. But yeah, I mean, it's a frustrating situation when you're hoping that your quarterback is going to rescue you time and time again. Whereas like the Chiefs, like Mecole Hardman, for example, he failed, but he was a 2nd round pick. Like there was an investment there in trying to find something to complement it. The Bills, we've talked about this many times. It started with John Brown and Cole Beasley, and then eventually the trade for Stefon Diggs. You're trying to build around your young quarterback. The Dolphins tried to do that. They tried to go out and get Will Fuller and draft Jalen Waddle and keep Devontae Parker, and so it's like you have to do those things to make your quarterback better. And the Packers, they just expect Aaron Rodgers to rescue them, and he has more times than not, except in the biggest moments.
Yeah, it works. It's not like you can't really criticize them because they keep doing really well, but they just fall a little short. Anyway, let's see. Pittsburgh defensive coordinator Keith Butler retired. The Ravens fired defensive coordinator Wink Martindale.
No surprise.
Carolina hired Ben McAdoo as their offensive coordinator.
I love that.
Yeah, look, he had a good track record when he took over for the Giants. They went from 28th in points to 12th, and then 6th the next year. And then when he became the head coach, they stunk. They were 26th and 31st in points. But look, his first year as the Giants offensive coordinator was also Odell Beckham's rookie season. So I think that had a lot to do with it too. But
do you ever forgive him for benching Eli?
I don't care. Yes, I've forgiven him, but it was so silly. I don't know. I mean, look, he wasn't a terrible offensive coordinator. The thing is, Matt Rule really, really, really wants to run the ball, right? I mean, he's like Mike Zimmer. Is that how you read it? I mean, he wants to run the ball like 30 times a game.
I mean, I think if he had a better quarterback, that might change his mind. But he also had a running quarterback too.
I thought that he basically got rid of Joe Brady and because they didn't run the ball as much as he wanted to.
Maybe.
Matt Rule, by the way, according to The Athletic, could be interested in the Michigan job if Jim Harbaugh leaves. Matt
What is
Ryan.
trade?
Matt Ryan most likely will not be traded, according to The Athletic. Chargers GM Tom Telesco said that they need to reduce Austin Eckler's workload. He basically said they really want to get another running back involved there. And he also said that Mike Williams is a big part of the team. We will see. Jerry Jones was critical of Amari Cooper. Thought that was interesting. And of course, the biggest football story of all was the Giants hiring Joe Schoen to be their GM. Only big because we learned how to pronounce Joe Schoen's last name, Schoen, pronounced Shane. Congratulations to Benji Haney. Who's Benji Haney, you ask? Well, we have something called the FFT Open. And if you want to be part of it, you can be next year. We'll post it in our Facebook group. A guy named Casey Simons runs it. He does an amazing job. Over 200 teams. This is like our little version of the Scott Fish Bowl. At Fantasy Football Today listeners competing against each other. Benji Haney won the 2021 Fantasy Football Today Open. Well done, sir. And thank you to Casey for running that. Okay. Dave, I know Saturday was a tough day for you and me in the sports world. So I hope you went home from a 1-point Miami Hurricanes college basketball loss to their bitter rival Florida State, and you cracked open a Miller Lite, right?
I didn't quite do that. I picked up my wife, and then we went out to an outdoor sports bar. And now we can pick up the story where you left off. And watching the game on Saturday night, definitely ordered myself a Miller Lite and just relaxed and take a load off and just watch some football.
And, Miller Lite's always been a great tasting light beer for people who love beer. So if you need just a few good friends or your wife, whatever it may be, and a beer with taste you can depend on, grab yourself a Miller Lite. Made from simple ingredients, Miller Lite is for people who love the taste of beer. Malted barley gives it the rich, balanced toffee note flavors and the golden color that you know and love. So you've heard Dave talk about it. It's also just 96 calories. And it's great taste. So Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/FFT to find delivery options near you. You can get it delivered to you. Or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. It's Miller time. Remember, that's MillerLite.com/FFT. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. As teams get eliminated, we ask one question about each team. We'll start with Tennessee. I mean, we see just how good A.J. Brown is. 5 catches, 142 yards, and a touchdown. He can be uncoverable sometimes. He can also be frustrating. What is A.J. Brown's ceiling, Jamie Eisenberg?
I mean, he could be top 5. I don't know if he'll ever be number 1 in this offense with this quarterback, but there's certainly that chance. But he's got to stay healthy. That's the biggest thing. That's certainly been an issue for him through 3 seasons. I just think if he's on the field for 13 to 15 games, even with Tannehill, and not knowing what they're going to do opposite him, if Julio Jones is still going to be on the roster, but there's just so much to love about what his game is and the potential and the upside that he brings. So he's an easy player to target in round 2.
Last year, he finished 7th in fantasy points per game in PPR. He had 70 catches, 1,075 yards, and 11 touchdowns. That feels pretty close to what his ceiling is. So could he crack a top 5 list at wide receiver in points per game in PPR? Sure. But I don't think he can get much higher than 5.
He's somebody that you can debate Stefon Diggs with.
Yeah, so let's do it.
There you go.
Diggs or A.J. Brown?
I would take A.J. Brown in non-PPR. I would take Stefon Diggs in PPR.
I think I'll take Brown in both, just because I expect there to be enough change in that Buffalo offense to maybe drive down those targets for Diggs. I don't want to make it sound like I hate Diggs, by the way, but there was talk about him being maybe still a first-round pick. No way. Second-round pick is where he's going to end up. It wouldn't surprise me if Brown was taken ahead of Diggs in a handful of leagues.
I guess the only thing is Diggs 164 targets in 17 games. And I just don't see how
No way.
A.J. Brown gets 160 targets, right? So
yeah, not again. We don't know. I don't know if Mike Vrabel. I can only assume he's happy with Todd Downing, but you just never know. So if there's a coordinator change, and it's very unlikely that they move on from Tannehill unless there's a trade. Like, hey, Green Bay, we'll send you Ryan Tannehill. You give us Aaron Rodgers. He wants out. Let's make that happen. Then A.J. Brown's stock gets even higher. But there's no way I would ever take AJ Brown over Stefon Diggs in PPR. They're just the catch potential is so much higher for Stefon Diggs.
Here's something to consider for AJ Brown and why it's hard to evaluate players, right? So if you look at 2020, and Dave already gave the numbers, 1,073 yards, 11 touchdowns. He was number 5 per game in non-PPR, number 7 per game in full PPR. And compare it to 2021, he had the same amount of targets. He actually had just one more target in 2020 than he had in 2021, but the numbers were so much worse in 2021. So it wasn't even like, well, he was hurt. I mean, he was a little hurt, right? He was banged up, but he was also playing through injuries last year. And bottom line is 106 targets in 2020, 105 targets in 2021, but he goes from 1,000.
How many games? Same amount of games?
14 games last year, 13 games this year.
Okay.
But there's some where he left with injury and whatnot. But 206 more yards and 6 more touchdowns in 2020 compared to 2021. And the only thing that I can look at that really changed, it seems obvious to me anyway, just looking at the stat page. How about his yards after catch per catch? It went from 6.2 yards after catch per catch to 3.9, which probably means he had a few plays in 2020 where he broke a tackle and gained 40 more yards or something like that compared to 2021. And that could be the difference, in having this incredible year and having a kind of a disappointing year. That's what he does. He makes big plays. But that was the only thing how do you explain that? Same amount of targets, 200 fewer yards, 5 fewer touchdowns. I don't know. Maybe it was that. It's kind of interesting. All right, for Green Bay, here's the Green Bay question. I think let's just focus on the running backs, or else we'll spend a half hour talking about Green Bay. What do you expect from the Green Bay running backs, Dave, with or without Aaron Rodgers?
I think they're going to be a big focal point of the offense, obviously. It's a strength that not many teams have, to have 2 running backs like this that they can use in and out. And as long as they're both healthy, I don't think either one's going to get more than 15 touches in a given week. I don't think it's going to be as simple as Aaron Jones plays between the 20s and gets all the catches, and then A.J. Dillon just gets the short yardage work. I think there'll be some mixing and matching. There will be selective moments where Jones will see more catches. Jones is going to get more catches. But I bet there's going to be selective moments where Jones is working at the goal line and Dillon is on the sideline. There'll be some third downs where Dillon's on the field and Jones will be on the sideline. So I'm expecting it to be a little messy, but probably something close to what we saw toward the end of the regular season, where they're both going to be useful for fantasy managers, but neither one will have, like, you can't reliably start one as a top 10 type of running back.
Jamie, do you think Aaron Jones is clearly better than A.J. Dillon going into next year as a fantasy asset?
Clearly, no. Better in PPR. I maybe clearly in PPR, yes. But no, I don't think so. I think Dave said it best. It's a luxury that they have that most teams don't. But the bigger issue is Aaron Rodgers. So with Rodgers, I think you could feel comfortable about Jones maybe in the back end of round 2. I'm most likely going to see him go in round 3. For Dillon, probably the earliest you'll see him go is maybe round 5 in PPR, maybe close to round 4 in non-PPR, depending on how the running backs come off the board, and probably similar in half. He was one of the guys, and we'll talk about this tomorrow, that I was looking to see where he was going to go, because people get excited about the next, him, Tony Pollard. Those are the 2 I was looking at, because could you see maybe a changing of the guard? So if Rodgers is back, if Adams is back, if it's the same cast of characters from the main guys you're looking at in the Packers, I think you could feel comfortable about Jones as a number 2 running back and Dillon as a potential flex with the lottery ticket upside. Now, if Rodgers leaves, that becomes where the trust factor goes with these 2 guys, because clearly the scoring potential goes way down depending on who the quarterback is. If it's Jordan Love, then how do you justify Aaron Jones in the 3rd round? Maybe the 4th round, because like Dave said, he'll still be the focal point of the offense, and Dillon probably gets more work. But my gosh, it's just going to be so hard to say same level of confidence with both those guys.
And just for the record, we've done 2 mock drafts. Dillon went 60th overall in the full PPR mock and 64th overall in the half PPR mock.
Yeah, Dave, I was trying to tease it for tomorrow, so people are excited.
Yeah, and I mean, you worry without the touchdowns what A.J. Dillon would be. And And without Aaron Rodgers, how many touchdowns could he score? But
Sure.
they seem it. I wonder if Rodgers leaves, if they just become so run heavy. Also, did you already say that, Dave? I don't know
No, but it makes sense.
Also, Matt LaFleur has been an offensive coordinator or a head coach for 5 seasons now. I keep updating this stat every year. 5 seasons, 3 different teams, and a running back has been second on the team in targets all 5 years. Gurley, Dion Lewis, and then 3 straight years of Aaron Jones.
You just wonder, is it the personnel or is it the coach?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely part of it. But it seems like that's a part of the offense. But
because like if Devin Funchess had ever materialized in Green Bay, would Aaron Jones be second in targets?
Maybe they'll draft like Kenny Pickett or something. There's a chance he could be on the board if they use a little capital. If they lose Rodgers, that'd be fun.
Do you think they spend another early round pick on a quarterback?
No, I don't know. But if they lose Rodgers, I think it's got to be on the table. But that would obviously be throwing in the towel on Jordan Love. He did not look very good.
Yeah.
Sample size. Real quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Bucs, who also might lose their quarterback, and what would that mean? Boy, it was pretty good actually. The last time they did not have Tom Brady, they had 2 wide receivers who were top 4 per game. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. So, Tom Brady, you coming back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I really hope so, because I think at least you know what you're going to get from Godwin and Evans. You're going to get great fantasy production if Tom Brady's back. So let's talk about this team. And Jamie, you can have the first word. How do you evaluate the Bucs passing game with and without Tom Brady going into 2022?
Yeah, and you kind of said something that we should also clarify. So are we just assuming Chris Godwin is back and staying in Tampa Bay? And what about Gronk and what about Fournette? Because they have so many, this is either run it back or blow it up, because I can't imagine that these guys stay if, it's doubtful Blaine Gabbert, but Kyle Trask, or, if they, bring in somebody else, which probably would be the route that they go. But, Brady's going to keep those guys most likely until certainly Gronk and maybe Godwin. But so I think if Brady's there, you just count on them still doing the same thing. Evans and Godwin, assuming Godwin is 100% by training camp, which hopefully he is with an ACL tear, that you're looking at 2 top 15 caliber wide receivers. We know what the upside can be. They could be top 10, but probably still safe to treat them as round 3 picks. Godwin better in PPR, Evans better in non-PPR because of the touchdown potential. If there is no Brady and Godwin's gone, then Evans becomes probably still a round 3 pick depending on the quarterback, because what the track record is. Basically, it's 1,007. He rolls out of bed getting that. But it just won't feel as comforting. Winston, you knew what you were getting because of Bruce Arians. And I think if Brady leaves, Arians might consider going as well. Maybe he just decides, okay, I've had my run. I'm going to turn it over to either Bowles or to Leftwich and let them have their opportunity to be a head coach, because they're certainly deserving. Bowles obviously done it before. So that's an offseason, worth monitoring for sure. What happens in Tampa Bay changes the landscape of a lot of fantasy assets, and Gronk probably retires again.
Dave, do you think that maybe they could bring Jameis Winston back? Let's say Brady's gone. Like last time Brady,
he's available.
Yeah, right. Last time Brady was not.
Said he loved him.
It would make sense, right? A lot of turnovers, but he got better at that in New Orleans. But he threw for 5,000 yards. He was a top 5 quarterback. He was top 8 per game. And like I said, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were top 4 per game. Godwin was the number 2 wide receiver in football and fantasy that year.
And Rashad Perryman was one of the waiver wire darlings.
Oh my gosh, Rashad Perryman, his last 6 games, he had like 500 yards and 5 touchdowns or something like that. I actually have that somewhere in the notes. But yeah, it was 500 yards and 506 yards and 5 touchdowns in his last 5 games, which is crazy. So that's Bruce Arians for you. I mean, would this feel different than the Packers losing Rodgers?
I think they could still be competitive, because I can't imagine Bruce Arians having a quarterback that can't push the ball down the field. Like, just if Brady leaves, whether they bring back Jameis or not, it'll be somebody. They'll find somebody who has a strong arm, and they'll just hope that guy can not make a lot of mistakes. And if they can do that, then it'll be a similar type of offense. The defense is still good. I know that they didn't win on Sunday, but they're still a good defense. and they can find running backs, and their offensive line is going to be good. I don't think that line is changing that much without looking at their cap situation. They have money to spend. They're not up against it like the Saints or the Packers are. So obviously, it would go without saying that the offense would be amazing if Brady stays. If they get a great quarterback to replace Brady, like Rodgers, for example, goes there, some crazy scenario, that would be amazing. And we'd be all systems go on everybody that's left in that passing game. And yeah, I think Godwin stays. But if it's worst case scenario where they don't have a quarterback that can throw the ball 50 yards downfield, I think you'd feel that a little bit. I think Evans and Godwin probably wouldn't be regarded as top 12-ish type of wide receivers.
If I were Rodgers, that was the first place I'd go if Brady walks. Warm, good defense. Perfect scenario.
And finally, he'll get to just air the ball out, throw as many times as he wants. They've been top 5.
And a big offensive line.
He'd have to deal with finally throwing a few interceptions.
He wouldn't have Devontae, though, would he? Unless Devontae.
Hey, if Godwin leaves and you say, Devontae, let's go to Florida.
Yeah, right. Maybe there's a trade to be made. They franchise both receivers and they trade them for each other. And Godwin goes to Green Bay.
Let's say if Rodgers goes to Tampa Bay and Godwin and Evans are there, let's say no Gronk, no Brady. Where do you rank Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, I think he's 4th for me right now. So
yeah.
Right.
Maybe 3. Maybe he'd go ahead of Justin Herbert.
Yeah. Because you just know how much they throw. They've been top 6 in pass attempts each of the last 3 years under Aaron.
I just wonder if Brady leaves, like, why is Bruce Arians hanging on?
Because he's got Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Well, in this scenario.
I mean, if in that scenario, yes.
Right. But sure. Why would he stick around to coach Jameis again?
Well, maybe he wants to prove himself. I can do it without Brady, just like Bill. All right, Buffalo. Speaking of Bills, I was going to ask where you're ranking Gabriel Davis and also ask about Stefon Diggs. We already did that. So
we got a Singletary talk again. If you want.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that, but we certainly could. How about Dawson Knox? We talked about Singletary. So not today, but in recent shows. How about Dawson Knox? Yeah, top 12, top 10, top 8. Where's Dawson Knox for you guys?
So I think once you get past there's going to be I think a consensus 5. You're going to have Kelsey, Andrews, whatever order, Waller, Kittle, Pitts. Those I think are going to be the consensus top 5. I think once you get past that group, and then you get to the Hawkinson, Goddard, Ertz, depending on where he goes. Knox is in that group. Schultz, depending on where he goes. Freiermuth maybe. Fant maybe. That's, I think, where kind of Dawson Knox is going to live. He's not going to be somebody that you're going to be actively targeting, but that you can get some quality production from him. There'll be some highs, clearly, as we saw in the season. You wonder what it would have been if he didn't break his hand and had that, I think it was like a 2.5 game stretch where he missed. There was a bye week in there. His stats probably look a little bit better. But again, Adam, you nailed this. It's attaching yourself to a good quarterback, and that's kind of what Knox became. He became a reliable option in a very good offense that throws the ball a lot, and he proved himself. And I think that gave Josh Allen the comfort and confidence to continue going to him. And so there are games where he's going to disappear because he's not going to be a 5+ catch guy on a weekly basis, but the touchdown potential is there almost all the time. So he's not someone you target, but he's someone you settle for and you can feel comfortable starting when the season opens.
Dave, he has fewer than 12 yards in 3 of his last 5 games.
That's not good. You're hoping for more involvement from Dawson Knox, and we can't guarantee that that's going to be the case. It was nice that he averaged 10.5 PPR points per game last year, and he's entering a contract year, so he'll be motivated to play out in a big way. But I honestly think that he's going to be a touchdown-dependent tight end most weeks. There will be some games. We saw it this year where he had 4, 5, 6+ catches, and the yardage was good. But you're starting him because you're hoping he scores a touchdown and because Josh Allen is his quarterback. And it's the perfect type of tight end to settle for when you get to round 9+.
This was the group that he's going to be in for 2021. You're not going to like it, but this is the tight ends that we were drafting. It was Gesicki. It was Logan Thomas. It was Robert Tonyan. It was, you could maybe Higbee, maybe Fant.
Right.
The guys that were, like 7 through 12, so We kind of knew that the Goddard situation going into the season, we had hoped that it was going to do what it eventually did, which was split those two guys up. And then you saw you could start both of them and they were, very good. But that's the type of tight end Dawson Knox and Pat Freiermuth are going to be, touchdown dependent guys. We don't know who Freiermuth's quarterback's going to be, but Knox, I think, is somebody, like I said, you'll settle for in close to a double-digit round.
Who do you like better, Knox or Freiermuth?
Knox
or
the hard one for me is Fant, and I think that one
I'll take Knox,
TBD, right,
depending on the quarterback. But I think it's going to be, where does Schultz go? And I know for me, I'll probably just fall back in love with Blake Jarwin again, if he's the de facto.
If he's still there. I think he's free agent.
They have to cut him. He's still under contract, so they could re-sign Schultz. That's a move that they probably should make. But where does Ertz go? That's a big factor too. So I think Knox is just somebody. Again, you just kind of see how the draft unfolds for you. So if you miss on the top 5, and then that, I think then the next 2 I think are going to end up probably being Goddard and Hawkinson, and so then it's that 8 through 12 to 15 is where he'll end up.
Here's Scott Fish, always watching, saying Matthew Stafford eats breakfast with Cooper Kupp. Josh Allen plays Xbox with Dawson Knox. Is it a sign for the future? Maybe.
Best friends, right?
All right, guys, listen. My wife's gonna be out for the next 30 minutes, so I got to wrap this up. I'm actually not on the show tomorrow. That'll be Dave, Jamie, and Chris talking about the half PPR mock draft and some running back reflections. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today.